Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegrand, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. Men for the Win is part of the Pulltab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pulltab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the San Diego Padres. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins play host to the San Diego Padres, who are currently sitting a game and a half out of first place in the NL West behind the LA Dodgers. And the Twins, remarkably, Dan, take 2 of 3. And dare I say, in the vein of Dan Thompson, or very, how would you say that? Because we have Hogesian. How would we, Thompsian? That just doesn't sound as good. Danian.
Thompsonian. You could say Thompsonian.
Thompsonian. Oh, that's good, Dan. Okay.
Yeah.
In Thompsonian fashion, dare I say, had a couple of things gone differently in game 2, this could have been a sweep, Dan.
Well, I mean, 9-run loss is a stretch for a couple of things, but I don't know. I mean, like, it was too... I guess if I'm a Padres fan, and I will talk about one of my good friends who's a Padres fan, this is like a super annoying series to lose, right? You're
100%.
You're playing a team that's in shambles, seemingly. Oh. And then they hand you, I mean, the Twins certainly look better in game 3. In game 1, we'll get into that.
Yes.
But hey, I mean, a series win. It was the first time the Twins had done this, 5 or 6 series, so good on them.
Oof. I can't get over it, Dan. And this is one of those series, too, where you kind of feel bad because you don't want the Dodgers to win the NL West.
No.
But at the same time, we'll take any bit of hope that we can as Twins fans currently. So it's like, oh, man, you just beat a team that's really, really good this season.
Yeah, totally. So I was actually able to watch game 1 and game 3 on an airplane. I was traveling for work, David. Occasionally I get to do that. I was in San Antonio. And David, we've talked about dream road trips before. And I know San Antonio, it's in Texas.
Duluth, that's in North Dakota.
It's hot down there, David. It was 100 degrees and muggy, and I walked a long time. We're gonna mention my walk a little bit later. Lovely city, great to go, but no, I mean there's a AA team. There was no baseball game for me to go to. I was a little sad about that, but a lovely town, David, in a very warm part of the country.
Yeah, you think that they could be an expansion area at some point,
They've
right?
talked about Austin. Austin and San Antonio are close enough. Yeah. They've talked about that. And I passed through Salt Lake, which is another candidate for expansion out west. So I was just, I was on Manfred's little, advanced scouting team. I think that's what I'm going to imagine I was doing as I was there.
It seems reasonable. Hopefully he gave you a good per diem, Dan. Got some of that authentic Mexican food down there.
Let's hope so. Well, we should get into this series. It was a fun one to talk about.
Series recap.
Game 1. There was a lot of fun moments in this. I was also able to attend to it more than I normally am because I was sitting on an airplane by myself here. Well, not by myself. Yeah. There were hundreds of people, but you understand what I meant. So
yeah, he's the only guy on the flight.
Yep. Very important. So Luis Arraez this was his first game back at Target Field since he played there for the Twins, which surprised me a little bit. He got a nice ovation, did this thing where he intentionally takes the first pitch like he's barely in the batter's box, which I really love. And then he singles. And I'm just like, what's not to love here?
So this is what I'll have to say real quick. I was on X for a lot of this, and Padres fans, I think, really dislike Arraez's approach at the plate where he'll take so many pitches.
Oh, really?
And it's super funny to me because I'm like, the guy gets on base constantly. Like, he can do whatever he wants. And now, to be fair, I hate it too. Like, not as much as I hate the Soto shuffle,
sure,
right? But like the whole Arraez shaking off the pitch and stuff, it's like, okay, when we all know it's a ball, like, you don't need to shake your head like it was a ball. Yeah, it was 4 feet outside. The catcher missed it. Of course it was a ball. You don't need to shake your head.
I would love that stuff. I think they got to bring him back. Right, come on, Pohlads. He can't be that expensive. Bring him back. I'm ready. Early in the game, Provis pointed out also that San Diego has been really good pitching with runners on, and I'm wondering, do you think that's a real stat we should care about, or is that one of those like ESPN stats that's just kind of like fortune more than fate? or if that makes sense.
No, I think it matters. Well, because guys are going to be pitching from the stretch, right? So
That would make
to
sense.
The full
Okay,
windup.
I could see that.
And I do wonder if it does point to the infield adapting well, even with runners on base, to still be able to field their position well. So I think there's some actual statistical basis and actual logic to that, I would say.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you settled that for me. That's a much better answer than anybody gave on the TV cast. Bottom of the third, Twins get runners in the corners with no out, then score a run on Buxton's RBI ground out. Then Jeffers walked, and then on the first pitch to Keishel, Buxton steals third. And this was momentous because it was the first time in his career. It was also his 20th steal and gave him his first 2020 season. And so the Twins, they do just get the one run. It's 1-1. But did you see the list of players that are 2020 for the Twins? It's not that long.
No. Not that long at all, Dan. And I guess I would have thought that at some point Buxton has definitely had 20 home runs, and at some point he's definitely had 20 stolen bases. He's just never done it in the same season because his health issues always stopped him from hitting one or the other.
No, and the last one to do it was Brian Dozier in 14 with 23 home runs and 21 stolen bases. Torrey Hunter did it twice. Corey Koski did it once. Marty Cordova did it once. Kirby Puckett only did it once, actually. And then Larry Heisel did it back in 77.
Different era, though.
I guess so, but isn't that still surprising that Puckett only did it one time?
He was fast, but it wasn't that fast. He was a short, stocky man, Dan Thompson.
Nobody was playing that sounder back in the 80s. Top of the fourth, Padres get a couple 2-outs to take a 2-1 lead. And then the bottom of the fourth, we are going to come back to here. The Twins turn this game around, David. Bottom of the fifth.
Yeah, the Twins did.
Well, the Twins did, yes. Bottom of the fifth, Royce Lewis hammers a slider for a home run to left center, his 9th of the year. So it's 6-2 Twins at that point. Next three reach, including Buxton on an RBI single. So it's 7-2. Twins are kind of in control. A nice moment with that home run we're going to talk about a little bit later. And then also Alec Jacob is a name that I knew. He pitched for the Padres. And this was one of those cool moments where my job and my fandom kind of collide. I've interviewed him before. I talked to him for a story. He's a Gonzaga pitcher. He was out here in Spokane. So I talked to him for something about a mound visit. So shameless plug for my own writing there. You can Google that. I'm sure you can find it. Top of the seventh, the Padres get a run or two on Tatis singling with the bases loaded to make it 7-4. But then Luis Ariz lined out to second for a double play to end the inning. And then, of course, the Twins bullpen hammers the door shut here. Sands and Funderburk handle the last two innings, and the Twins win.
The Arise lineout, I thought was a hit. Because this is one of the things that frustrates me. And I had a buddy over when this was happening and I was watching this game. But so here's my thing, Dan. If you watch cricket, what I love about cricket is they have a little field symbol and it shows where everybody is aligned, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the hardest things about watching baseball is when a hard ball is hit, either like on a line or on the ground, you don't have any idea if it's a hit or an out until you see the ball cross out of the infield, right?
Were we promised a camera for this though?
Dude, no, I don't have. Dan, we don't have the time today for me to be upset about Twins TV and all of its ingenuity and all these different changes they're going to make. But why can't baseball just right next to the current Chiron just put a little field symbol and show me where the fielders are playing, so I know when the ball's coming off the bat, I at least have an idea if it's going to be a hit or an out. Because when that ball got hit to Keishel, I'm like, dang it, that's a couple more runs scored. But then no, he caught it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, great.
What was that
deal.
word you said? Chiton? Is that the name of the icon?
Chiron.
Chiron. Okay, Chiron. Yeah. That sounds made up.
Chiton. I think that's Superman's villain, isn't it? I don't.
Anyway, game two. This one, there's not a ton to say. Padres win this one 12-3. It's a promising start by Taj Bradley. We're going to talk about him later, but 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 6 Ks. It was funny because my friend Bill, who's the Padres fan, texted me, I don't like this Taj Bradley guy. But then, wait a couple innings, and then he texted back, I didn't need to be concerned about Taj Bradley. No, Bill, you did not, because Mick Abel came in. Maybe he was tipping his pitches again. He faced 12 batters, David, and got 3 of them out. You or I could have accidentally gotten 3 guys out, I think, in that situation. Ryan Fitzgerald could have gotten 3 guys out.
There does come a point, Dan, where you start to wonder if the Twins can petition the MLB to waive the rules regarding when position players can pitch. Because there have been some opportunities here, Dan, where I'm like, I would rather have a position guy just throwing balls in there and just hoping for the best.
Padres end up with 14 hits, 7 walks, go 7 for 17 with runners in scoring position in a 9-inning game here, too. There wasn't all those extra ones you get in the 10th and the 11th. Buxton does hit a 2-run home run, but that's about the only highlight. And then Ryan Fitzgerald pitches a scoreless 9th for the Twins to keep the Padres from really running away with it. He's the only Twins pitcher, I use that in quotation marks, to not give up a run in the game.
Well done, Fitzgerald. He's proven our point, Dan. I mean, and look, this is a large swath of data we're looking at as far as position players for the Twins pitching. Let's do it. New strategy. We got the piggyback and then positional players making up the rest of our bullpen.
What if you did between the piggyback, you did a position player? So you went starter, position player, starter. That would really throw them off. I mean, that would change all of those third time through the lineup data. Like the statisticians would be at Elias Sports Bureau would be smoke coming out of their ears. They would have no idea what to do.
That would be a rough one for him, Dan. We'll take us through game 3.
Game 3, again, Twins do win this one, and this was the convincing win of the series, 7-2. Bottom of the third, they get on the board when Buxton hits another 2-run home run, his 29th, which is a career high for him. Just so good to see. That came after left-handed pitcher Kyle Hart was called for a balk when Martin went early to second base. So this was on Roku, David, and I know, there are a lot of things about...
No, okay, first of all, I didn't realize it was on Roku. I didn't realize it was a noon start. I'm coming home from church. We stop at Costco, and I'm thinking I'm going to watch...
To be a gentleman.
I will not be a gentleman here. We stop at Costco on the way home to get gas. We had to pick up some things. I'm hosting a draft tonight, and so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get home. I'm going to throw the Twins game on, and then I'll be ready to record. But no, Dan, it's like the 5th inning by the time I get the TV on, and it's on Roku, so I don't have it recorded, and the MLB app doesn't let me start from the beginning. Worse than that, Dan, for whatever reason, Roku on all of my TVs, the Roku channel, puts it into like standard definition screen, so everything is smushed together, and it's not high def. I might as well have been watching hockey in the late 80s, where nobody really knows what's happening. You're just hoping that you hear something that tells you what's happening on the field.
Fans want an ejection. There it goes.
And that was Gardy's Gripe.
It's brought to you by Commissioner Manfred, who I believe is trying to get baseball on more TV screens and streaming services. So there you go, David. Well, anyway, the thing was, I actually kind of liked it, aside from the Luis Ariz interview on the field thing, which always drives me nuts. But they had Corey Provis, and then they had Padres commentator Mark Grant. And I liked the combination. But I got to say, when announcers are announcing for other teams that they don't know, I feel like they try to stretch into metaphors when they ought not to, or they try to they're trying to add too much commentary. So first of all,
those in glass houses, Dan.
Well, so hold on. One thing I liked at first was that Mark Grant mentioned our favorite mathematical implement. Which, David, can you name this implement?
The circle with the ruler.
The protractor.
Yeah.
You're talking about a block. And this was helpful, actually, to me. He drew an imaginary 45-degree angle, like that splits the difference between first base and home. And that was very helpful because Kyle Hart stepped way past that. So Martin was safe on the balk anyway, so that was fun. But then Grant kept leaning into it, and he started to try to call Joe Ryan later the mathematician. And I was like, buddy... It was like he was trying to make fetch happen. Like that's what it felt like.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Thank you. And so I don't know, but I liked the combo overall. I just thought he kind of overreached a little bit in some of his commentary.
The limit does not exist.
Anyway, top of the fourth is a key moment here, actually, because the Padres get a couple on because Royce Lewis has an error that was legit an error at third. But then Ryan rebounds, gets the next 3. He had a great start here. Twins add another run in the fourth on an Outman RBI single, then 3 in the fifth on RBIs by Keishel, Jeffers, and Lewis. Lewis singled in another in the bottom of the seventh with kind of a bloop to right. So it's 7-0. The Padres do spoil the shutout after off Mr. Tonkin. The Padres do spoil the shutout off Michael Tonkin.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Terrible.
Anyway, but Joe Ryan does finish 7 innings, no runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. His first scoreless outing since June 25th when he pitched 6 innings against the Mariners.
I was concerned, Dan, after his last outing that maybe he was hiding an injury, but clearly not. He looked great, Dan. And you know what also looks great, Dan? When you're working your way down the potluck line and you got the pulled pork, but it's a little dry, and you see it, Dan. You see it glistening in the sun. The picnic table is full of jars, but the jar you're looking for, Dan, is Jimmy's. And folks, let me tell you, grab a jar of Jimmy's coleslaw dressing to give your slaw the zip and zing that everyone will be talking about. Available in original, fat-free, and pineapple, Jimmy's is family fun and locally owned. Delicious on burgers, brats, pulled pork, and as a summertime side. You can't go wrong with Jimmy's. Pick up a jar today. Jimmy's salad dressing and dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
Touch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
I'm feeling so good, David. I have taken the lead now in Puckett's picks. Byron Buxton got me 19 points. You picked Lee, who had -2. The listeners took Keishel, who still had himself a good series, 5 points. And then Hoges took Wallner with -1. David, please tell the people what the standings are.
This is pretty nuts, Dan. You are in sole possession of first place with 16.5 points. Not just a 1-point lead or a half-point lead. A 1.5. Hoges is in second at 15. I'm in third at 11. The listeners bringing up the rear at 10.5. But Dan, you're in the driver's seat now. And there was a great F1 race today. I haven't been able to finish it quite yet. But sometimes the lead, Dan, can be the hardest place to race from.
Ogres are like onions.
Yes, I suppose so. I don't know if many analogies work for a silly game like Puckett's Picks, but never quite know. Let's move on here.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I have to give it to Joe Ryan, I think, first. Trevor Larnach only played in 2 or 3 games, but he had a great outing as well. And Zebby Matthews pitched really well also, Dan. But I am going to give it to Joe Ryan because just to see him bounce back in this way against a Padres lineup, Dan, that's nothing to sneeze at. Like, this is a good offensive team. He looked great. I'm thrilled about that. I'm actually going to skip ahead before you do your beast, Dan. I'm going to do my bench quick. Abel, dude, what are you doing? Like, this is the guy who's supposed to be like a guaranteed shoe-in for our rotation next season, and he's not looking like that, Dan. He's not looking like that at all. That's a very apt use of that sounder, Dan. 1 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned, a walk and a strikeout. His ERA is currently sitting at 7.76. Dan, I never thought I'd be looking at these trade chips that have come in over the course of the deadline and thought, man, I hope his ERA is sub 6 before the end of the season.
I think Justin Topa has the best ERA on the staff right now. It's like 3.76 or something like that. Like there's nobody left who's any good. So, okay, David, so my beast, I'm going to paint you into a literary situation. So imagine that you're in Helm's Deep, right? In the 2 towers from the Lord of the Rings, right? And you're a soldier there, and you see Aragorn and Éomer and Theoden and Gimli, and they're all gathered together, and they're like trying to figure out how are we going to defeat this army of orcs that's coming at us. And they're listening to the information that the scouts that are sitting up on the hills, like they're telling them, like they're saying, hey, look out, there's archers coming, and they probably have a very large, there's a lot of orcs, 10,000 orcs coming. And so they're all huddling and they're getting ready, and they're like, oh man, well, what do you know about orcs? Like, what do you not know? What do you know about Saruman? Like they're sharing intel. And then you got Legolas, who is just sitting over there by himself, and he's like, dude, I'm just going to go slay. This is Taj Bradley right now for the Twins. Taj Bradley, the recently acquired. And this baffles me because I thought that the Rays, where he came from, are like a great organization for pitching development. He reveals to reporters that he has never read scouting reports, that he doesn't even factor them in. He just kind of says, well, we'll see what the catchers tell me to throw. I'm just going to go out there and throw. How does that happen? How do you not use that information if you're a starting pitcher in the majors? And he's got hundreds of innings under his belt. And now he's just deciding, hey, maybe I'll start doing some scouting. That is amazing to me. And maybe he's got great arrows in his quiver, right? Like the guy can throw 4 or 5 different pitches for strikes. Great. But think of how good he could be here.
It is interesting because there's always that sort of long debate over who has more authority over how the game is called, and certain pitchers want to call their own game and whatnot. So if Taj Bradley was just putting all of his faith in his catcher, that's fine. But that does concern me a little bit because I like to think that the catchers and pitchers, man, that they're collaborating constantly, right? Like they're always bouncing ideas off each other, looking at the lineups here to see, hey, when this guy comes in low and inside, we can't throw it there. You can't throw it there no matter what.
Okay, did you remember the story, the Greg Maddux and Jeff Bagwell?
Yeah, the Bagwell thing.
So, this idea that Greg Maddux is setting up mid-season, he's willing to give up a home run in mid-season to set up, months later in the playoffs, a strikeout of Bagwell. Taj Bradley is barely setting up his next windup. The guy is, that's just stunning to me. And so actually, this leaves me quite optimistic because if he will start leaning into these things, imagine the pitcher that he could become.
I tell you the truth, I'm a little confused by your tactics.
Yeah.
It's a bold way to go into the game without looking at these scouting reports. Also, how annoyed are all the people putting these scouting reports together? Like when they hear all the entire Rays advanced scouting team is just super annoyed that they're like, do you know how many hours we put into these?
It's like in Star Wars when they're about to attack. Remember, there's that throwaway line that launches Rogue One as a whole movie, this information costs many lives or something like that. And Taj Bradley's just like, dude, just get me in the X-Wing and let me go attack. That's all he's doing. Anyway, it's maddening. My bench is Matt Wallner. Not a great series.
That's a moose.
He hit the ball hard a couple times, but in the end, he's just so up and down. I guess that's what you get when you're going to be a slugger like him. And he still won the series, but he's on my bench.
He stole a couple of bases, though, Dan.
He
You gotta give him
did. That was good. I'll take that.
Yes, but a very cute moose. Make all the boy moose go, wah.
Rocco's Rewind.
So, okay, the way that Rocco is managing now is the way that I want him to manage all the time. So you added here the stolen bases stat. So 6 stolen bases, I believe, was that in this series that they had?
Yeah.
Okay, so over the last 15 days, and this was before Sunday, the Twins were tied for the Major League lead in stolen bases over that span with 18. They were tied with the Mets. They're now 19th in the MLB on the season with 78. Last year, they were dead last with 65, so they're already past that. I love this. I don't know why they weren't doing this before. And is this... Like, why do you think Rocco is doing this differently?
Well, I think just obviously the roster makeup is huge right now. You have a lot of guys who are young and athletic and can steal bases. But also, Dan, what's he got to lose, right? Like, injuries that happen on stolen bases, you get like a sprained thumb or something, right? Like, you don't often see torn ACLs, maybe a pulled hammy, worst case. Like, yeah, there's a chance of injury. But other than that, you want to see how, like, hungry these young guys are to get those bases. Let them go. I love it. I think that so much of it has to do with, we have to see what we have for next season. And as we're going to talk about in a little bit here, you're going to need some dogs here for next season. Guys who just want it more than everybody else, because the skill level as a whole on the team, I don't know is going to be enough to really lead this franchise into a winning season next year. But I just think the way that he's had to manage is just based on how much fun he thinks the guys can have.
I mean, baseball should be fun, David. It definitely should be fun.
So that segues well, actually, because I was watching Game 3 on mute, right? Because I was watching the beginning of the F1 race. So I was like, it's always hard.
Big TV, little TV, where
well, at this point, the Twins were up 7-0. So
okay,
the Twins were on the small TV on
even
mute,
with
and
this
F1
bullpen.
was on the big TV.
Okay.
But so here's the thing. Rocco, I don't know what was happening, but he celebrated for so long at the end of Game 3, and he was like throwing heart hands up. Did I miss something early in those 4 innings I didn't get to watch? Where he would, like, I don't know who he was showing hearts to, but he like stayed out there a long time. And I understand it's cool to have a series victory. And I guess good on him for trying to keep up, like, a good attitude and whatnot. But you still have to realize where you are here, Rocco.
I mean, maybe he was looking at Kevin O'Connell. Maybe Kevin O'Connell was back for another game. He was at Game 2,
okay.
Right? Maybe he was celebrating with that.
Yeah, so O'Connell was right behind home plate in Game 2. And Dan pointed out to me, because I was like, oh, that's cool. He's there to support the team. But it also feels like a really hectic time as an NFL coach to be at a baseball game. And he's there, and Dan says, well, I've seen him wear a Padres cap.
Well, Judd Zolgad posted that on Twitter, too, so that's right. I got to give credit to him. But yes, there was a comment he was wearing one of those alternate ones with like a palm tree.
Oh, that was see, I didn't even know that was a Padres
Apparently
hat.
That's a Padres hat, yeah.
Is that okay?
For him to be a Padres fan? Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, okay, no, but so here's my question, Dan.
Hoges is a Packer fan, and he's on this podcast about the Twins.
Well, okay, hang on. I don't like how much sense that makes. Give me a second to come up with a rebuttal.
Hold on, all right, wait a second. You can't back it. You can't cut this, right? Because
no, I'll keep it. I won't cut it. I'll keep it. No, but my question is, like, isn't that sort of like, that would be like an Alabama professor, like going to Auburn and then like wearing Alabama stuff to the Iron Bowl?
Ogres are like onions. End of story.
No, I don't think so. I think allegiances between sports can be different. I think that's okay.
Okay.
If he came, let's see. I mean, he's not going to be wearing a football, anybody but the Vikings, right? Like, you wouldn't even see him wearing a Rams hat now, even though he spent all that time with the Rams. So I think it's okay. Good on him for prioritizing baseball at a busy time. I mean, this is a message that we want everybody in the listenership to have, right? Is that baseball is important even at the busy times.
Okay, also, shout out to Hoges. I want it on the record here. Hoges is convinced this Parsons trade is making the Packers absolutely Super Bowl bound, and they're going to win it all. I feel so bad to watch a friend of mine get his hopes up so much for a team that's going to finish third in the NFC North.
Don't give me hope.
All right, we got to move on here. We got to go to the Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
All right, so I'm going to start with the heartfelt one here, David. There were 2 really fun moments in Game 1 here. So Fernando Tatis Jr., obviously the Padres slugger, he's having another good year. During batting practice, and this all came out during the TV broadcast, he slugged a ball to like the left field second deck. And there was a kid, probably, 10, 12 years old, trying to make a catch, and it went off like his shoulder, and it seemed to have struck him decently hard enough to make it hurt. I mean, a baseball off Tatis, like off your shoulder, that would hurt. Tatis got wind of it, he signed a baseball, and then he walked out to, he probably jogged to left field, and then tossed the ball up to the dad who caught it. So then that kid got 2 baseballs, which I think is really cool. And then on And then on Royce Lewis's home run, in I think it was the 6th inning there, it was funny because a dad caught it, and he had to make the choice between his 2 children to give the baseball to. And he gave it to, I'm going to say it was the closer child, right? So it was his younger son. And then you got to go back and watch it. It's really funny. The daughter is just, I mean, she feels awful, like head down, tears are coming. Audra Martin, though, she went and she told Pablo Lopez this had happened, and she had him sign a baseball. Maybe she didn't sign it. I think it was just a baseball that Trevor Larnach had singled. I think it was Trevor Larnach's most recent single. And she gets that ball, and she walked out and gave that to the girl. And the girl said that it was okay. But I don't know, David. Would you rather have a Royce Lewis home run ball or like Trevor Larnach single to right?
How can you not be romantic about baseball?
There's that.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
But clearly the Lewis homer.
Well, yeah.
Sure. But okay, to be fair though, with your children, and I don't know if you're like this, like I try pretty hard when it's not something specifically given to the child, that it's like, hey, it's ours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's ours. And something like that where the dad, if he's, he'll probably put it in a ball case and not let the kids like play with it, right?
You would
like,
hope, yeah.
Hey, look at this baseball that we all got together.
Sure.
So I in that moment, I don't know that I would have given it to either of them. I would have like handed it to them to both see, but unless he said like, this is for your brother, like really aggressively, like I would think you'd try and appease that right up front to be like, or I would say, no, this is daddy's, but I would love you guys to see it just to prevent that exact thing.
Right. How many times in parenting do you keep something for yourself to keep your children from fighting over it? Like the last bite of cake. I mean, very often I just eat the cake. David said that we don't have the fight.
I don't know that I have a great analogy because so often it's the older one instigating with the younger one.
Sure.
Like taking the toy intentionally just to, okay. Parenting podcast here. It drives me nuts because I'll ask my kiddo, I'm like, was that a nice thing or a mean thing to do? It was a mean thing. Do you want to be a nice person or a mean person? A nice person. Then what are you doing? I don't understand it, kiddo. Oh my goodness.
All right, back to baseball. You want to talk about game 1 here.
I do. Okay, game 1 bottom 4 is a comedy of errors here. If you're playing the show and the other guy's controller died, that's what happened here in this Padres Twins game. So Wallner singles, Martin walks, Lewis singles, and then Clemens reaches on a ball that should have been a double play.
Absolutely.
Hit right to the second baseman, through the guy's legs. It looked just like Brooks Lee play, like last series, where the ball goes right through his leg. Then infield in, Dan. You'll love this.
Oh, I love infield in.
The ball hit next here. The pitcher kind of gets out of the way of it. And it was hit hard, but not hard enough to be like, oh, my body. Like, no, you're paid to play baseball. Like, get your glove down there.
Would you say that
at
to
least.
Luke Keeschel? Are you saying we wish Luke Keeschel would have dodged that pitch back in April and not get struck in the forearm and be out for 3 months?
Yeah, but I think the ball off the bat in this instance coming back at the pitcher wasn't as hard as the ball thrown at Keeschel.
Maybe so. Anyway, but yes, that did unlock quite the inning for the Twins there. It was 5-2, and the Twins had a commanding lead that you would argue they didn't actually earn all that much.
Well, correct. But so it was Larnach who hit that ball, by the way. But the other moment here is Nestor the Pester, as opposed to Jim Cott's nickname, Nestor the Molester Cortez.
Man. Terrible.
He's having a rough inning here, obviously, and he's frustrated. Well, Manny Gonzalez, the umpire, ejects Cortez as Mike Schmidt, the Padres manager, is on his way out to talk to Cortez. I don't know exactly what the ins and outs were there, but dude, even if the calls at the plate aren't going great, like you're upset, but directing your anger at the ump there is probably the wrong person you should be upset about.
Well, see, but I saw something about this. Somebody on X, I believe, was saying that maybe Cortez did this on purpose to get the relief pitcher more time to warm up, because that I think. That I think is pretty good if that's what was happening there. But that's a lot of orchestration to go into that situation.
Well, and it's expensive. I think you get fined quite a bit of money if you get tossed, don't you?
Well, I'd like to say it was worth it, but they still lost the game by 3 runs. So I don't think it paid off.
Okay, let's push here. Mauer's music.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
So these are both things we talked about, David, during our phone call while I was walking the streets of San Antonio. I'll ask mine first here. To you, what would be a satisfying record for the Twins over their last 26 games? Given right now I think they're 62 and 74, so 500's out of the question, I would argue. But over those 26, what do you want? What would you be happy with?
Man, there's no way they're getting back to 500, right? Because that would be just remarkable baseball. Honestly, if they do anything with less than 90 losses, I think that's a victory, Dan. Honestly, so you'd need to not lose 16 more times in the 26 games left. So you win 11 or 12 more games, that's doable, right, Dan?
Yeah, so we'll just run it down. They play the White Sox, the Royals, the Angels, the Diamondbacks, the Yankees, the Guardians, the Rangers, the Phillies. I think you really got to bank them them here over the next couple series because that's really what's going to matter here. Those are three teams that are not in contention. I guess the Angels even are a little bit, but those other teams there, that's especially the Phillies, Rangers. I mean, those series at the end, those teams are going to be. You would think they're still gunning. Now maybe they won't be, and that actually might change some things. But I agree with you. I would love to see them go 500. I think they haven't been able to do that. You don't think it's not impossible? It's just very unlikely.
They could lose 6 games, Dan. You think they're going to do that against that gauntlet that you just threw down?
Well, maybe not. And to be fair, the Padres are without Jackson Merrill and also Xander Bogaerts. And then Tatis, I think, maybe left the game today with maybe something like a hamstring they were talking about. So hope he's okay too. But the Padres, I think they're going to get Merrill back. But I hope that they're on the trajectory so they can catch those darn Dodgers.
Here's to hoping. So speaking of your trip to San Antonio, so Dan Thompson calls me on Saturday morning. And Dan and I don't often talk on Saturday mornings because we each have families and we're doing things. But it just so happened that I was at my parents' and my kids were playing nicely, and I was just sort of in a spot where I could just talk. And Dan's telling me about where he is. And he's at the San Antonio River. And he's walking, and it's beautiful. He says it's shaded. He says he's like 6 miles from the stadium, but he thinks he's just going to walk it because it's just so beautiful. And just sort of stop along the way and how you can walk the whole way along the river. And so Dan doesn't have his family with him, first of all. So Dan doesn't need to think about kids. He doesn't need to think about where the nearest bathroom is or what snacks he needed to bring or if he brought the right color cup for the milk that the kids want to drink. Like, Dan is only concerned about
I like to think that those were made-up examples, but those are like legitimate examples that we all think of.
Yes, I tried to be pretty specific here, Dan, about things that parents actually think about. But so, as Dan is talking, sometimes our position in life, Dan, can really dictate our optimism moving forward. Because Dan's on this phone call saying, David, after that game last night, I just think that they could definitely be successful. I see a path to a successful season. And like Dan's mindset in that moment is so skewed because of the perfection he's feeling in that moment of just absolutely carefree. So Dan, I appreciate the optimism, but no chance were you thinking very clearly in that moment.
Well, don't worry, be happy.
I think so. Okay, so I just think that the lineup as is, if you add Wally Jenkins into it, could actually be quite potent, right? You've got multiple potential all-stars right there. You've got Byron Buxton, who is. Luke Keeschel, I think, could be an all-star here. Matt Wallner, if he plays his cards right, could be. Royce Lewis, I mean, we know he has the potential in him. That's just a handful right there. You add Wally Jenkins, who, after reading Aaron Gleeman's article, I'm quite convinced is going to be a Hall of Famer. I just think the lineup is fine. You have 12 starting pitchers that if you just buddy them up, you can have a 6-man rotation. You don't even need relief pitchers, so that solves that problem. So 95 wins next year, David. Winners of the AL Central, just like that. No moves necessary.
Okay, so that was really my true question. I know I had a long preamble, but how many moves legitimately do you think the Twins would need to make or not make in order to be competitive?
So they're going to need a backup catcher because you got to think that Christian Vasquez, who it's a shame that he's not able to play, and we wish him well health-wise. So I think you need that because I don't think the guys you traded for are even like they can't even rent a car yet. So they clearly can't play backup catcher for the Twins. Then you do probably need a couple relief pitchers. I think you could probably get by with 2. If you get 2 proven, the problem is that proven relief pitchers are very hard to find because teams tend to keep
If
those.
Only we had them and didn't sell them.
Well, we did, but that's how we got Taj Bradley and Mick Abel, 2 great bastions of the 2026 rotation. So it's good. It's a trade-off, David. I do think that they will find a couple guys, but I think legitimately they can be a contender next year.
Okay, well,
for the division title, I'm not necessarily going to christen them in, but you never know. It's baseball, David. I mean,
it's important to note that
the
Dan
playing field is so level, right? Yeah, exactly.
Dan is still by himself. He's not yet back with his family, so the optimism is probably still free flowing from Dan's mind. But no, they're going to need some moves, Dan, to be competitive. But let's go ahead and grade the series here.
Series grades.
I mean, I'll give him a B here. You won 2. Pretty crazy that a sweep. Truly, if Mick Abel wasn't on this team, the Twins could have easily won Game 2. No question. But so I'd give him a B. This was a surprising series that was kind of fun to watch. See the offensive production a little bit, the stolen bases. From an entertainment perspective and an actual results perspective, this is a solid B, Dan.
Momentum, I gave him a +1 because I still think they kind of got away with Game 1 there and clearly got trounced in Game 2. Decision making, though, all this base stealing, the way that Rocco is just Minneapolis, letting players actually play and lefties face lefties. I love what he's doing at the bottom of the lineup. They pointed this out on the TV broadcast. Whoever's batting ninth is getting protected by Buxton at the top, so I really like that. And then the older guys, the handful of them, Buxton, Ryan, and Jeffers. Pablo even helped with that kid getting a baseball. That's a +2. And then the youth, I mean, David, everybody's getting good scores here. It's a 19 out of 20. This is an A. This is a great series.
You know, and also shout out to Dan Students. He did mention when we hung up the phone that he was going to peel off his walk for a minute to do some grading.
I did.
If I were to be a betting man, Dan, I would argue your scoring overall is just a touch higher of those assignments when you were down in San Antonio.
Well, you know, it is Labor Day, David, and it's kind of one of the last lake days that are out there for everybody. And it's no secret that being on the lake is a great way to live. You find yourself on a busy boat, though, or you're on a cramped pontoon where everybody's brought their own giant cooler. It's the moment you realize you need that aqueduct from Rave Sports. You shouldn't settle for the weaker options like from the other guys, because if you have a Lily, you're just being silly. But the aqueduct from Rave is the goat of the float. Unlike those saggy, hard-to-roll-up competition, the aqueduct blows up easily. It's 10 by 10 and is just as sturdy as the dock you walked out to your boat on. So what are you waiting for? Give your pontoon a water patio that it always wanted and pick up an aqueduct at Rave Sports. Remember to use the promo code Pulltab for 20% off your order. Rave Sports, make waves.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Kyle Schwarber, Dan, has been on this podcast as a topic a lot because it's very confusing to look at his statistics and try and like balance what's happening. A guy whose batting average is like 8, but his OPS is like 2,000. It doesn't add up in our minds, Dan. But he hit 4 home runs in one game, believe it or not. And that's impressive. And you even have a note here. He had a chance at a 5th against a position player and he couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I think in the story, I forget who wrote the story, but he's 0 for 14 against position players in his career. It's just, maybe I shouldn't say that. He's homerless, in 14 at-bats against position players. But he is having a year. He's already at a career high, 49 home runs, 119 RBI. And his batting average is actually 247, so it's not too bad. He's been okay here over the last couple of seasons for the Phillies. Much better than the former Twins that they have playing for them.
Well, Dan, I have to say here, this is just one more piece of evidence that position players would be a good option for the Twins.
Exactly. They can get Kyle Schwarber out where nobody else could. And then one other thing, David, you and I both like Fenway, and we like stadium oddities. So Jarren Duran, who is very fast, he plays for Boston, he hit an inside-the-park home run to the triangle in Fenway, and it wasn't even one of those that really did a lot of funky bounces. He just hit it just between the outfielders, and then it was kind of tricky to get that. So that's a cool replay. You should go check it out. Obviously, the fans at Fenway are quite pumped about it.
All right, well, let's go on here, Dan. Let's make our picks for the upcoming White Sox series.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Puckett's picks.
The listeners are going to take Buxton. I'm going to take Keishel. It'll go to Hoges, who still hasn't gotten back to us, Dan. So I think I get to pick for him. I want him to do well. I want him to be interesting. I think I'm going to go with Lewis. He looked good this series, Dan.
Yeah, that's a fair pick. This is my familiar spot now, dare I say, picking last. Let's see. Let me look at this last box score.
Oh, you're going to take Wallner. You think he's going to
No, I'm not going to take Wallner. I'm going to
take
take Austin Martin, actually. I really like what Austin Martin's been doing lately. He steals bases and he gets on base.
Dan, I think that's all. We'll be back here after the White Sox series, and if you wouldn't mind, why don't you go ahead and send us out?
Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.